As financial planners, one of the most common questions that we get over and over and over again, particularly at cocktail parties, is how much money do I need to have saved up in order to quit my job and step into retirement? And if you're somebody who's ever asked a financial professional this question directly without any of the background context and other information about your finances, the answer you probably got was, well, it depends. And that can be a really frustrating response, right? You want to know, what should I be shooting for? What's my number? How much do I have to have in the accounts before I can wade off into the sunset and step into retirement? And unfortunately, it really does depend. It depends on how much you plan to spend, when you plan to retire, how much guaranteed income like Social Security you have coming in, and what type of accounts your savings are in, right? So in this video, we're going to assume that if you're planning on retiring at 63, we're going to explore a variety of scenarios based on different spending, different types of accounts. So if you have all your savings in a 401k, that's different than having it all in a taxable account, and how much Social Security you have coming in. We're going to explore a variety of different scenarios, and hopefully it'll shed some light on, generally how much might you want to have saved if you're going to retire at age 63. So to start, what we're going to do is take a look at a hypothetical couple, Jerry Seinfeld and Elaine Bennis, using our financial planning software that allows us to model and map all this stuff out. And so what we're going to assume for Elaine and Jerry just right at the outset is that they both just turned 63 and they want to retire right now. Now, they're 63. Let's say that they have $75,000 in cash that constitutes their emergency fund. They have another $850,000 saved up in a taxable investment account that earns an average of 7.25% per year in a balanced, diversified portfolio. And let's say that they want to spend $7,500 a month. Now, on top of this, let's assume that their Social Security benefit from Jerry's earnings, his work record, is going to give him $2,000 a month when he turns full retirement age, which for Jerry will be age 67. Let's also assume here that Elaine has no income from Social Security, but she will collect half of what Jerry's benefit is through a spousal benefit. So from a Social Security perspective, when Jerry and Elaine both turn 67, they'll file for Social Security and start collecting $3,000 a month in today's dollars. $2,000 from Jerry's earnings, $1,000 from Elaine's. Now, what we can see when we map all this out is if they start with $75,000 in cash, they have $850,000 that's invested, earning 7.25% per year, is things don't look so good. They're going to run out of money. This view in our software shows us that they'll have money until age 81, but this applies that 7.25% investment growth every single year, which is unrealistic because their investments are not going to earn the same return every single year. There are going to be good years where the markets go up. There will be bad years where the markets go down. 7.25% is simply the long-term average we might expect over around 30 years. Over a short period of time, like a 12-month interval, we have absolutely no idea what could happen. It could be way up or way down. And so the next iteration that might be useful is to run what's called a Monte Carlo analysis. This is where we take this big fat database of return history in Jerry and Elaine's situation, and knowing the components of their portfolio and how likely each different type of investment they're in is to go up or down in a given year, we can run 1,000 trials using those inputs and determine in how many of those 1,000 trials did Jerry and Elaine reach a ripe old age, and in how many of them did they run out of money. So here we've set our targets all the way out to age 100 just to see what it looks like. As we can see, Jerry and Elaine in this situation need more than 850,000 saved up in order to retire, because after running 1,000 trials using these inputs, they only reached age 100 with money in the bank in 80 of them for an 8% chance of success. So clearly we need to make some changes. So since the purpose of our video today is to figure out how much we need to retire under a variety of circumstances, what we're going to do is tinker around with different additions to Jerry and Elaine's portfolio to get this probability of success up into a reasonable range. Now, keep in mind, we don't need a 100% chance of success. Okay. A 100% chance of success means that there's no scenario in history where Jerry and Elaine would have run out of money if they retire at age 63 and then live all the way until age 100. We don't need to be that high. We probably need to be in the 75, 80% ish range. Now, keep in mind that these are kind of ballpark numbers. For your retirement plan, your financial plan, you should be much more exact than this. Some people are completely fine having a lower output from this kind of analysis. Other people want to be on the higher end, somewhere in the high 80s and 90s. There's no wrong answer here. The point is that we're increasing the range into that generally 75, 80% ish category. Now, I should also mention that these projections are great, but they are far from perfect. Okay. What we're doing is instructing the program to run 1,000 trials using a whole bunch of different assumptions that I just went over. And then we're telling the program that those assumptions are never going to change. That's unrealistic. For example, in Jerry and Elaine's case, if they were to have an unfortunate circumstance, have very bad returns in their investment accounts, and be trending toward this yellow orangish line down there at the bottom, toward the bottom of historical outcomes, they're probably going to make some adjustments. They might adjust their investment portfolio. They might adjust their spending habits. They might shuffle their life around a little bit so that they don't burn their last few dollars and spend through all of their portfolio by the time they get into their 80s. So, this analysis does not take into account any of those dynamic changes. Nevertheless, it's a pretty useful tool for modeling these kinds of things out. So you can see here in our tool, what I've done next is added all these different increments to Jerry and Elaine's taxable investment portfolio. And keep in mind here, when I use the word taxable portfolio, I'm saying that Jerry and Elaine have either individual accounts or joint accounts, maybe an account in the name of a trust that has never utilized any 401k, IRA, Roth account savings at all. And what that means is the money that goes into the account has already had taxes paid on it. And if there are dividends or gains or interests that occur in the account, Jerry and Elaine are responsible for paying tax on those gains every single year. So this is just taxable money, no retirement accounts at all. And after tinkering with this, I will cut to the chase and tell you that in order to get into this range of desirability, 75, 80% ish, Jerry and Elaine would need to have about 1.5 million saved up in a taxable investment account. Now, if they want to spend more than $7,500 per month, for example, $10,000 a month, they're going to need to have more than 1.5 million saved up. When we look at this scenario, now we're back down to 24%. That's too low. So what is the number we need to get to? If we add another $500,000 to the portfolio, yeah, this might be reasonable for some people, a little bit low for my tastes. If we get up closer to 2.25 million, that's really where we get into the range of desirability. So for Jerry and Elaine, $2,000 of monthly Social Security benefit at 67 for Jerry, $1,000 of spousal benefit for Elaine. If they want to spend $10,000 a month and all their savings are in taxable accounts, they need to have 2.25 million. And if we want their spending to be closer to 15,000, or excuse me, exactly $15,000 per month, then they're going to need more than that. This totals about 3.6 million in taxable investment accounts. So clearly you can see the point here. We want to explore different scenarios, different amounts of Social Security benefits, different spending levels. And the next iteration of this is, well, what if they have more Social Security coming in? And in this scenario, we're assuming Jerry has $2,750 each month coming in from Social Security for his what's called his primary insurance amount that he gets by filing at age 67. Elaine gets exactly half of that as her spousal benefit. And if they have $850,000 saved up, they're a little better than they were in the first scenario because they're getting more in each month, but they're still below that range that we'd be comfortable with. And so across a variety of living expenses, 10,000, 7,500, 15,000, and a variety of different portfolio values, we figured out, well, what do we need to get in that happy range if all your savings are in taxable accounts? And this is the output I'll put up on the screen. Now, the reality of this is that the vast majority of Americans are saving for their retirement in tax advantaged accounts like 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, all different types of retirement accounts. And that's a good thing. If you have a choice, you should probably choose a tax advantaged type of account first. What most people don't realize, I think, is that $1.5 million in a taxable account is very, very different than $1.5 million in a tax deferred 401k or IRA. Because if you want to get that $1.5 million out, you're going to pay tax on 100% of that amount if it's in a traditional IRA or a 401k or another kind of tax deferred vehicle. But if it's in a taxable account, you've already paid tax on a portion of it. So for the purposes of our video today, you actually need more money in order to retire at 63 if the entirety of your savings is in a tax deferred account like, again, IRA, SEP IRA, 401k, 403b, 457 plan. There's a litany of retirement accounts available to us. So let's go through those scenarios now. So if Jerry and Elaine are going to retire at 63 and they're using only tax deferred accounts, let's assume that their Social Security benefit is that original $2,000 per month at full retirement age for Jerry. Again, Elaine will collect $1,000 of spousal benefit at that time. Our baseline was that they had $850,000 in a taxable account. What I'm going to do is remove that entirely and replace it with a $1 million 401k plan. Now, we're not in that desirable range yet. And just to jog your memory, in the original scenario, $7,500 of spending, $2,000 Social Security benefit, $850,000 of taxable account, they would need about $1.5 million in order to spend $7,500 a month and retire at 63. So if Jerry has $1 million saved up and they want to spend $7,500 a month, we're going to need to add some to the portfolio. And it should be right about here. So whereas they needed 1.5 million if their savings were in taxable assets, they need closer to 1.65 million if their savings are in tax deferred vehicles. And obviously, if they want to spend more than $7,500 a month, they'll need more than that saved up. Here's the output in the tax deferred situation. But what about tax exempt accounts? What if the entirety of all your retirement savings are in Roth accounts that you've already paid tax on, that you don't have to take out, but when you do, are all tax-free distributions? Well, obviously, you need to have less saved up because your savings are growing tax-free. You don't have to pay any tax when you take the money out of the accounts. So if you have to have the most money saved up in tax-deferred accounts where you've not paid tax on any of the money yet, and you have to pay tax on all of it when it comes out, you have to have more saved up in deferred accounts than you do in taxable accounts. And the least amount you need to have saved up is if it's all in tax exempt accounts like Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, something like that. So back to our baseline. Now let's look at the tax exempt situation, $2,000 monthly Social Security benefit at full retirement age. If we remove the $850,000 of taxable money and replace it with a Roth IRA, let's start with $1 million if Jerry and Elaine want to spend $7,500 per month. Well, 33% is a good start. It's not quite going to get us there. In order to get us into that desired range, we need to have closer to 1.35 million saved up. So remember, with tax deferred 401k, you needed closer to 1.65 million in order to retire using these assumptions. If it's a taxable account, you only need about 1.5 million. If it's all in a Roth account, closer to 1.35 million will do the trick in most circumstances. When we run all the scenarios, here's the results. So what do we get from this video? Obviously, the more you want to spend in retirement, the more you need to have saved up. The larger your Social Security benefit, the less you have to have saved up. The more of your future expenses will be covered by Social Security in some way, shape, or form. The less obvious one is the more of your retirement savings, the larger portion of your retirement savings in tax deferred accounts, where you just keep deferring taxation, you haven't paid tax yet, the more you're going to need saved for retirement. We looked at those three different scenarios. If all your retirement savings were in taxable versus tax deferred versus tax exempt, most people have a mix of those three different categories, and you can kind of do your own math to figure out where you might sit if you have half in taxable and half in tax deferred or some other variation. The other way to look at it might be this summary right here. If your Social Security benefit is somewhere in that middle range, $2,750 a month at full retirement age, if you have a spouse collecting a spousal benefit, here's the summary that we came up with from our analysis. Now, clearly, everybody's situation is different. This is not advice. Another decision that you have to take into account is if you're retiring at 63, do you really want to wait until 67 to file for Social Security? Should you file earlier, maybe around the time when you give up work and have that large income gap, or do you want to defer later until 70 and allow that benefit to grow? There's a lot of personalization that comes with retirement planning, but with any luck, hopefully this was just some loose guidance so you don't have to roll your eyes next time a financial professional tells you that it depends.